Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of the GoMobi.work weekly coaching series. Each week, we bring you a topic in employee development and teamwork and leadership. And sometimes we even have some special guests. We are very excited to have with us today Jennifer Jane Young, a superstar who we feel very grateful to know. And I know that all of her clients are very grateful to know her also because of the amazing work that she helps them accomplish. So we're going to have a great conversation for you about culture and things that leaders can do to foster a aligned work environment where people are performing at their best. And Jen's going to drop some major knowledge for us today. My name is Wade Bruffy. I'm the co-founder and CEO of GoMobi.work, and I'm joined as always by my co-founder Zoltan Sarda.
Hi, everybody. I'm Zoltan Sarda. I'm the Chief Coaching Officer of GoMobi.work, and I'm super excited to have Jennifer here with us today. We've had great conversations in the past, and I know it's going to be absolutely worth your while.
Yes, this is a long time coming. And so without further ado, Jen, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, guys. It's always nice to hang out and have these super inspiring leadership conversations. They're always really enlightening. I'm happy to be here. I'm also just so honored to be part of anything that GoMobi is doing because I have been experiencing firsthand the incredible work you guys are doing. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, Jen. Oh my gosh. Well, we wouldn't be where we are today without you. So we hope that you know that. I know I tell you that every time I see you. So hopefully I'll never get tired of saying it. So hopefully you never get tired of hearing it.
I won't.
Jen, would you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I have been an entrepreneur for 13 years. I became an entrepreneur because I was extremely miserable in my life and just could not fit into, any of those traditional boxes that we were being told to fit into. Life felt really hard. I was suffering a lot because I couldn't find that place where I could really express myself and use my potential in a way that felt exciting and impactful for me. So I launched into entrepreneurship, actually becoming a yoga teacher, and then went on to becoming a yoga therapist. So studied, anatomy, physiology, energy, all that kind of stuff. And then I realized that I was more passionate about business and entrepreneurship than yoga. So I went on to become, business coach, advisor, and all this great stuff. And in the last few years, I've actually merged my knowledge of the incredible human body and everything that we function with every day, our brains, our nervous systems, with entrepreneurship. And I now teach and coach around intuitive leadership, which for me happens through the right brain hemisphere. And just teaching entrepreneurs and leaders how to be in that space where they're essentially at their highest potential, where their nervous system is healthy and in check. They're functioning in the right side of their brain in every moment. And what I've seen is just people accessing way more growth and joy and success and all kinds of things. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. I just finished last year a contract with the United Nations. So I also worked with them for a year and a half, leading their community of entrepreneurs and always dipping into some kind of project.
Well, that's amazing, Jen. Thank you for that. I want to double click on something that you mentioned, and that was your life before you became an entrepreneur. Tell us about your prior career and what was it that was about that work environment that was making it draining for you?
Well, I had several because I tried lots of different things. I initially went to school to become an interior designer because it was the path that felt like, oh, maybe here I can use my creativity somehow. And I quickly saw that there was just like a whole lot of rules and competition in that world. And I don't function really well with rules and limitations. So I dropped that. I worked for a bit. Then I studied to become an early childhood educator because I just really love nurturing people. And that led me almost to a burnout until I took my summer vacation to do my yoga teacher training. And all of this obviously is a whole long story of all of these intuitive nudges that I kept getting that I finally started to follow. And that started when I just said yes to going to do my yoga teacher training, which completely shifted my life. But for me, I guess what was really draining is like working in a world that is just led by fear and hierarchy and a lot of limitations and a lot of I'm diving a lot into conscious leadership lately, and this whole idea that like there's no right or wrong, there's no like I'm better than you. It's really about a higher level of awareness and what we're doing and how we're working. And I just didn't have that in the work that I was doing. And it just felt very limited in terms of like my own personal growth and expansion. Like I just felt like that world I was living in like wanted to keep me in a box. And I just like, I cannot live in this tiny little box my whole life. I'm going to die suffocating. So that for me was what was really draining, is just feeling like I was constantly being kind of suppressed in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we interact with a lot of environments as part of our work, and you know this well. Was there anything that you felt like in those environments? Was it a particular type of culture that you encountered where that was being enforced by certain norms, or what did you experience that was kind of the institutional ways of thinking about it that weren't supporting your feeling of freedom?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing was like, I'm the boss and you do what I tell you to do. And your thoughts, your feedback, your experience doesn't really matter because these are the rules and I'm the boss and you just need to do your job kind of thing. Whereas for me, when I'm working with teams, I always like to, it's for me, it's an exchange, right? It's like, okay, one of the things because I've been a business manager very often, and I always tell the business owners, like, listen to what your team members have to tell you. Like they are in it every day. They're seeing things that you can't see from the 10,000 foot view, right? So their feedback is really, really important. Doesn't mean that we can always, implement what they're suggesting or their feedback, but and like I'm leading a team right now in an organization, and like every month in one of the team meetings, I remind the team, like, your feedback matters. Like we actually want to hear from you. And that for me is what I didn't experience in that world before. It was more a culture of like silence, like silent, do your job, follow the rules, and don't try to do anything more than what we're asking of you, kind of thing, So my bosses and even like, whether I was going to school or had jobs, like people would get really annoyed with me because I always wanted to go like beyond what we were doing. Like, how can we do more? How can we do different? And yeah, they would get really frustrated with me.
This is really resonating with a lot of things I've thought over the years, but I'm curious about your thoughts on this. One of the things that I see, like particularly in organizations that are trying to be in an innovative position, they're trying to really open up these kind of conversations and bring this to this kind of what you're talking about here, this sort of open culture into the workplace.
Yeah.
But then there are structures in place that sometimes inhibit that, right? And one of the things I see, I love the concept of feedback, but there's also like some of the times I'm seeing that this doesn't come in direct feedback from people, but like how they behave. So when we're moving to say, let's start this project, one of the questions you get from people is like, is this okay? Am I going to get in for this? Is this, is everybody, and then I think it happens with both, the people closer to the work and then the managers as well, that there's this sort of thing of, we have to shed these sort of, organization maybe saying do this, but there's still that sort of inhibition in people. It's like, I'm going to get in trouble if I actually do that. And it's what your thoughts on like, how have you experienced that, or what do you think are some of the remedies to that kind of thing happening?
I have so many thoughts around this. So can I nerd out a little bit on the brain?
100%.
Please.
Okay. So for me, that's a very left brain way of thinking. And I'm not saying this, like I always tell people, I don't bash the left brain. We need it. Like the left brain is what is allowing us to be here on a call together and like actually have an appointment to meet and have a conversation. But I think all of that comes from just how we've been conditioned and the fear. Actually, Wade and I were talking about this the other day, the fear of losing control. Like we want to keep everything nice and tidy all the time. And for me, when I talk about intuitive leadership, for me is like right brain leadership, right? Which is about playing in unknown territory, trying things we've never tried before, accessing information that we couldn't access if we weren't taking some small risks. And I think what's really important is to encourage and create space for vulnerability in the workplace. So there's right brain leadership, which is about exploring, playing, curiosity, taking risks. And then there is being reckless, right? So you just want to create a space where people know that they can take a little bit of risks and try things. And even if things mess up a little bit, it's not a big deal. And things are allowed to get messy a little bit. But like, let's not go beyond this line where like, okay, we're going to totally destroy the business. So I think it's about making things clear with the team about like how far they can go. And remind, like I still have to, the team I'm working with right now, we actually use a virtual office space. And sometimes I'll just message someone and be like, hey, can you meet me in my office? And they'll come in with like a blank face and they're like, oh my God, what did I do? Am I in trouble? Like, no, I just want to have a conversation with you, So like, I think we're all conditioned with this like fear of getting in trouble or making mistakes. And essentially like, you can't really make mistakes in life. It's just, all of this is trial and error. So, and if you don't let your team make a little bit of mistakes and give them some freedom to step into their self-leadership, you're going to create a culture of handholding. You're going to create a culture of teams that don't step into their leadership and that aren't able to solve problems on their own. And like, I always come back to Richard Branson because he's one of my mentors and I really look up to how he built his businesses. He has always given his team like full freedom to make the decisions and trusted them in doing that. And sometimes our team knows better than us, the leaders and managers and CEOs for certain things. So yeah, that's, I guess, a long answer to the question, but that's what I believe in.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's just striking me, just 2 days ago, SpaceX had their rocket blow up and I was watching that and, and it was amazing because every employee was cheering, right? The thing,
right?
4 minutes into its flight, and it's like there's some kind of culture that they're saying, okay, yeah, so we've got to take, like that's apparently in that organization an acceptable risk to do that kind of work. So
yeah, well, interesting. Again, it's like depending on the lens you look at it through, it's either like something goes wrong and we're going to blame somebody for it, or something goes wrong and we're going to learn from it and use this as an opportunity for growth. But to do that, it requires vulnerability. Like it requires you to be like, okay, we messed up. Mm-hmm. And actually, when we just own up to something that didn't work, it just frees everybody up to like access their creativity again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true, Jen. The thing that most people I feel and that we see is that when they get into the I'm afraid to mess up. I don't know if you've ever, like, one thing that happens for me, even when I'm trying to do something that's completely unrelated to anything at work. Like let's say I'm trying to throw a ball or like make a shot in a game of some sort, or hit a tennis ball or whatever it is. Yeah. If I get into my head, don't miss, this is really important.
Right.
Then I tend to miss. And if I just stay present with what do I need to do next? Like where should I be? What's my process? Yeah. Then I play much better. So it's exactly that. And now I do feel though that a lot of leaders maybe who are, or somebody in an organization, hopefully who's listening to this, is thinking the way that we all think. I think a lot of people developers who are listening to this think like we do, where we realize that things need to be flowing, and that is really good for our performance.
Right.
Now, somebody that is in that typical command and control mindset is the words that I like to use. What do you tell them to try to break the pattern that they're in?
Well, for me, it's really simple. Like, just think about your approach and what state it's putting your team in. So I always come back to the brain and the nervous system. So if you look at your approach, think about, is this going to put your people in stress response or in relaxation response? Our friend Eugene likes to call it the executive state. The executive state is when you're like at your full potential, you can access your full creativity, your problem solving, your intuition, all that good stuff. When you're in your stress response, you're like, I'm going to die. So you don't have access to any of that stuff. You don't have access to your wisdom. So I think it's really important for leaders to really think about that. Think about like how they communicate with their people, what kind of emails they send, how their energy is when they have someone in a meeting or when they're leading a team meeting. Because nothing good is going to come from having people in high stress response, and then like high stress response equals people go into the left brain and then just work in this very limited, rigid way of thinking. So I would say that. And I think it's also like a good question is like, what's the worst that can happen if we all just soften a little bit? Like what's the worst that can happen? I mean, it's not about being reckless, but it's like, no one's going to die. We're probably not saving lives. If you are saving lives in your business, you might want to take this into consideration a little bit more, but generally we have so many fears around what could go wrong. And again, if we just remove the label of blame, so doesn't matter what, the why if something went wrong matters because that's information to problem solve after and try to do it again. But because of who that doesn't really matter. So it's just you have to drop your ego. Really, that's what you have to do. And the best way to do that is play and having fun with your team. I think if you don't know how to do this really with your team, I would say I don't know, book a team meeting and play a game. Mm-hmm. Play a game that requires people to be super vulnerable and silly and really drop the ego and see what happens when you do that.
That's such a good suggestion, Jen. And we'll have to, in a couple of weeks, we have a friend of ours, Elaine Chung. She's coming on to talk about, she's a play expert and she helps everyone, executives, board members, and their businesses integrate more play into the way that they operate. So you will love her, and it'll be a great conversation for anybody that's listening to this too and wants to dive more in that. So that's a connection we'll have to make.
I love that. So I mean, I'm just so many ideas coming to me, but maybe I'll just join the call with Elaine. Yeah.
I love what you're I love this concept of drop your ego and all that. And I also there's that little bit of left brain in here, as you said, that, be creative, but don't be reckless.
Yeah.
And to me, in some ways, and again, this is sort of that left brain kicking in. It's how do you think about with people? Because the not reckless implies some guardrails.
Yeah.
And how do you coach people into thinking about that piece of what are those? Because I think what happens is that when we're in the really left brain mode, those guardrails are so close.
Yeah.
That nobody has room to move in them, right? But how do you coach people through that idea of how do you loosen that up?
Well, I think if you have a team and a culture of people who really care, they won't be reckless. So it's actually like a very intuitive thing. So I think what's important to nurture is when you bring people into your team, to bring them in for the right reasons, like to give them something more than just money or success to come into. Like you want them coming in and like actually caring about what you're doing, about your company, about the people in the company. And generally speaking, when we actually care about something or someone, we're not going to be reckless, right? So we don't even need to like work so hard or plan so much to not be reckless. So I would say like that is an important piece of like how you hire and how you bring people into your business. And just knowing that, like for me, the left brain, like I said, it's essential, right? The left brain is what reminds us to look both ways before we cross the street so we don't get hit by a bus. So being reckless, I think for me, is being in a low state of awareness. Yeah, if you're in a high state of awareness and you're practicing deep listening, which is like, if there's anything that we need to do more of as leaders is deep listening. When you're slowing down enough and listening deeply to your people and even to your own, self, checking in, it's going to be just a lot more natural to not be reckless. We're reckless when we're moving too fast, when we're driving forward with our left brain and our ego too much, and when we're not taking into consideration the well-being of people in the business. So I think that's something that leaders definitely need to pay more attention to, or hire people on your team that like pay them to care for your people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love one of the things you said earlier about your prior experience was that aspect of silence in the work, right? I mean, it's that idea of like listening. You can't have silence.
No.
Listen, right?
No, exactly. And I think, I think in general, we just don't listen deeply enough in life and in business. And it like people have a feeling that like listening is very, very passive, but it can actually be a very like conscious, active state of being. And, we say this all the time, like if you're in a coaching group or in a mastermind, oftentimes you get the biggest insights from listening to other people, not from talking about your thing. So, and I think leaders and managers don't listen enough, unfortunately, to their people because they're scared of losing control. Like, what is going to happen if I actually ask my people how they're feeling? Uh-oh, how's that going to reflect on me? What if they're not okay?
Yeah. What advice would you give? I mean, that's such a relevant thing to the work that we do, is talking with managers who are saying to us, well, what does it mean for me to be a coach? Like we think this might be a good idea for our people and for our business, for our performance. But what we are asking people to do is to adopt a different way of talking to each other a lot of the time, to support a performance development conversation versus a performance management conversation, which is more, as we've been talking about, this is everything getting done? Like, let's line up all our ducks in a row. What are our OKRs? How are we doing? To more of, who's this person in front of me? How are they doing? How can I better support them? How do you think about, like, what advice would you give for a first-time person?
Well, I would say that, I think when people are not listening enough, it's they're especially when it comes to coaching, it's like they're talking too much and they're trying to fix the thing too much. Like I think as a coach, our job is to not fix or heal the person. Our job is to empower them, right? So we first need to understand their experience so that we can respond in a way that's going to empower the person. If we just tell them what to do and fix them, we're completely disempowering them. So I would say, like, just listening from a place of curiosity so that you can actually understand the experience. So if we talk about the OKR thing, this is actually a really good example. So let's say like we get into a team meeting and we're like, we didn't hit our OKRs and KPIs. Like, what happened, team? What's wrong with you? That's like the kind of the traditional approach.
That's the usual conversation.
Right? So
Sadly.
sadly, right. So instead, it can be more of like an open, curious conversation around, okay, we didn't reach this OKR. I wonder what happened. Do you guys have any feedback to share? What maybe got in the way? Like, what made it hard for you to get to this goal? Is there something that we could add to the team or to our training that would help us be able to get here? Like, you need to understand from the people who are actually trying to move your business forward. So again, it's like moving out of like the blame and you guys messed this up to, okay, this didn't work. We need it to work so that our business can keep like surviving and thriving. So, and again, the leader that I'm working with right now, that we're working with together, all of us, she's incredible at doing this. She's like, oh, we have a problem. What do you guys think? Like, what do you guys think we should do with this? And every time I'm like, man, it takes a lot of confidence to let your team figure things out without being frustrated or upset about the results, you know?
We talked before we came on a little bit about that idea of onboarding. So that's actually, I know for many employees that coming into that environment is going to be a culture shock.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you know, what are like to have the CEO of your company say, what do you think? Is people are not expecting that on day
Right.
one. So
No,
so like, what are I'd love to hear your thoughts about onboarding.
I could rant on this for a really long time because I'm really nitpicky about onboarding. So what I've seen a lot because I've done a lot of hiring and onboarding of people, the experience that I've seen is like throwing spaghetti at the wall. So the team member coming in is the spaghetti and we just throw them at the wall and then they like flop on the floor and we hope that they survive and figure things out. And it just starts things off on such a shaky foundation, right? So, and then like it takes that person, if we think about profitability, it takes them so much longer to become profitable in the business. So I'm a Cancerian. I'm extremely nurturing and extremely caring. So like I have really high standards about onboarding people. And again, some business owners can feel frustrated with this because they're like, why is this taking so long? Or why are we being so slow with this? I think that intentional onboarding is so important. Like, let's not force feed our new team members information. Let's give them time to like, you know, come in, evaluate the space, meet the people, meet the business owner, get used to the systems, and also have a process for them. Like I just redeveloped the onboarding process in the organization I'm working for now, and we've broken it up. So like there's like week 1, day 1 to 3, week 1, day 3 to 5. And it's like intentional. So the person can have time to receive information, study it, be with it, you know. If we're putting people into stress response, like they're not processing information. It's like going in and out. So it's complete waste of time for everybody. And you want to think about like how you want your people to feel when they come into the business after, right? So for me, onboarding a new team member is like receiving a guest in my home for dinner. I wouldn't just open the door and like throw them on the sofa and, you know, take off for 5 hours and like come back with dinner later. Like it's the same thing for me. So I think that there needs to be a process in place, and you can like automate this in a very simple way. Also, it doesn't have to be like hand holding the person the whole time. But I mean, if you want people to be efficient and profitable and successful in their role, I just think there's no other way to do it than doing really intentional onboarding. I'm gonna stop there because I could go on forever with this.
It's one of our favorite topics too. You know, I think we both experienced this. You know,
Yeah.
your first day on a job as you're filling out paperwork and, you know, what insurance do you want? And, you know, all,
Right.
which is really important stuff. But like, if that's your first, you know, your first image of the new place you're in, you know, it really lacks that play piece. And so,
Yeah, and we can't expect people like there. I think sometimes there's an expectation that we're like, why are they not getting it? Like I always tell business owners, it takes 3 months for someone to settle into their role and start to be efficient.
Yeah.
Like, we're human, there's just so much information we can process. And I also don't believe in rushing the process of anything. So yeah, I think we need to be more careful with that. And it's gonna, it's gonna benefit the business owner and the business in the long run. So
Yeah. Jenn, I'm so happy to be talking with you about bringing people in and getting things going. Will you tell us a little bit about what Alchemy does and the work that we're doing together to support Alchemy?
yeah, of course. So Alchemy, what we do at Alchemy is we offer essentially bookkeeping and accounting services to entrepreneurs. That's like the basics of the service, but essentially we're helping entrepreneurs clean up their money, create a really positive, healthy relationship with their money, and feel empowered with their finances. So we have a really big purpose behind the work that we do. And we really believe in nurturing our people and coaching our people. So a lot of the examples I gave today is about what we do at Alchemy. And like, we have had the desire to coach people, and we've kind of been doing it in a very disorganized way. And what you guys have brought to us is like a home for our coaching. It's like a space where we can like build an intentional relationship with our team members and an intentional coaching process. Instead of just being like, oh, meet me in my office and let's talk about this problem, there's like an intentional process behind it now. And we can actually see the progress of our team members in one place for us. And what I love about what you guys did is it's collaborative. So it's not, again, about this hierarchy of like, I'm the coach or the guru, and like, you're going to listen to what I have to say because I'm smarter. Like, the person being coached is actually part of the process and part of like the note taking and part of all of it. So it's giving us this really empowering container to elevate our team even more and just take really good care of our people. And my feeling from the beginning is it's going to just bring a lot more ease and peace in how we support our team. And I think it's going to amplify and leverage the efforts that we're putting in right now, but that are kind of scattered in a way. So I'm excited.
And I've always been so excited working with Alchemy. I mean, it's an accounting firm and they're doing all this, like you would think, left brain all the way.
Yeah.
And they're doing this amazing stuff to really, really get that well-being as part of the entire employee experience.
Yeah. And it's a company that's actually a beautiful example of a very balanced yin yang, left brain, right brain energy. And obviously, like, there's more parts of our brain than just left and right. I just simplify it so that it's easy to understand. But we help. It's like we relieve people of the left. We relieve entrepreneurs of the left brain stuff that they like don't want to deal with, which then causes like mess and finances. But like within our culture, we have a lot of left brain structures. But like I would say our culture is very right brain. It's very like expansive and creative, and we try as much as we can to practice conscious leadership, for sure.
Are there any exercises maybe that you guide people through it? One of the things that Wade and I are really fascinated about is the sort of we've talked about it as regression to the mean, right? The traditional way of doing things is the mean, and trying to do something differently, there's this pushback. And we've talked about a lot of the factors here, stress, ego, all these things. Are there any exercises that you run with people for them to stay in the space of openness and right brain and all that, and rather than regressing to that sort of left brain, ego driven space?
Yeah, I mean, we try to Like we try to always have activities that balance out the left brain stuff, So one thing that we've just started in the company, because one of our team members was really struggling with a cultural thing happening in her world, in her environment. And we were like, we want to support her in this thing, And so we came up with this idea of having these monthly company conversation starters. So we just all get on Zoom and we talk about a topic that is happening either in someone's community or globally around the world. It can be saving the ocean, or it can be women's empowerment, or it can be actually my next topic that I'm super excited to talk about is men's mental health. And we just have an open conversation about it. There's no like one leader of the conversation. We're like, this is what we're going to talk about today. And what do you guys think about that? So it just becomes like this sort of sharing, and like it's a safe space to share thoughts and ideas and feelings. And to open ourselves up to like what's happening in the world, or what's happening in the culture of this person that we didn't even know about, or what's happening with the health of this person in our team that we didn't even know about. So we try to do activities like that. I would say that really, really helps. And I mean, Michelle, the business owner, she's always investing in our personal growth and development, so we will, she gives us access to a lot of resources, like our friend Eugene, who teaches us all about, the brain and mindset and the nervous system. And so we try to help people understand their experience, not from a place of like shame or telling them what to do, but from a place of exploration. And again, just, I think when we remove the hierarchy from things and we just like sit down as human beings and have a thoughtful conversation around something, we can access that right brain, and giving the team freedom to like problem solve. Like that's, oh, I get to play here. I get to like maybe suggest something. Another thing that we do is we have like 1% of our revenue goes to giving back causes every year, and we let our team decide where the money goes.
That's great.
So like they send us like who they'd like for us to support and what cause they want us to support. Yeah, so there's a lot of different kind of things that we do like that. We try to integrate it into all our things. And I send out a weekly communication every week, and it always starts with our LOL moment, our laugh out loud. So I find like a really hilarious video that I saw go by during the week, and like that I want them to look at that, watch that, and have a good laugh before they go into the company updates. Stuff like that.
Yeah, love it.
It's those little things that you do to create that culture that are really powerful. And alchemy is a great example because you all are so focused on it, and it shows in your business results. I mean, you have now, it's over 20 employees, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're at 20 now, and we're getting ready to hire more soon. So it's growing fast. And what's beautiful is, well, as we're growing, we're always giving our team the opportunity to tell us when they want to level up, when they want to step into something bigger, so we can give them, like, instead of hiring a new person, like maybe there's someone in the team who wants to step into this responsibility. So we try to like uplift the people we already have, and just create as much openness and space for people to grow on a personal and professional level.
It's such an important effort, and we hope that the work that we're doing together is really helpful to your business as you're doing that work.
It already has been. It already has been. We're always referring back to like, this thing that we did with Wade and Zoltan last year, like we need to come back to this because this is the foundation to what we're doing. So
it's nice to know it's living on. So
Yeah.
But that's, and that's also the key to, like, I think one of the things I'm hearing that I love in this is that you're not doing one-off things. It's like they're cultural and systematic in a way, and I don't, they're part of how the place operates. And I think we actually had somebody comment on some of the work we've done. I forget the phrase he used. Wade, you spoke with him, but like, how is this not going to become just a one and done sort of approach, right? And I think that's alchemy is a great example of, like, we're going to keep tuning this thing. It's going to be in front of us every day. I know they start meetings with sort of repeating some of the things that they've talked about in the past, so that it's on the table before the meetings start. I just think those are great ways to keep that in the forefront. Yeah,
well, we, like, you guys are the ones who helped us bring life to our core values. So, like, what do our core values look like in practice? Because core values are kind of flat when you don't understand how they're supposed to look like. So every team meeting, we start the team meeting by reading our mission, vision, and core values, sharing some gratitude, some celebrations, and all that stuff. And we often refer our team members to the work we did with you guys to be like, okay, well, if a team member is struggling with a core value, for example, we will get them to refer back to go back to that work we did with Wade and Zoltan to look at what this looks like in practice, because then it's like, it's more concrete, we know what to do with that core value. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super happy to hear it.
Yeah.
Jen, well, we are coming up on our time here, and it has absolutely flown by. I can't believe that it's already here. Feels like we're just getting started. I want to know, and we want to know, as far as to the leaders out there, if you were to give them 3 things that they could do to bring a more coaching culture to their business, and even if that's something that they have never heard of or never thought of, what would you say are the 3 things that one should keep in mind if they're a leader or somebody who's thinking about doing this with their team?
Yeah, I would say practice listening more. Ask your team more questions. Like, really ask your team more questions. Get curious. And before going off and asking your team to do better, look at how you can first nurture a healthier internal environment in yourself, because whatever's happening in the team is trickling down from you. It's inevitable. So, like, start with you to see, like, how you can create a more peaceful, aware internal environment. And then from that place, like, that energy is going to trickle down into your team, and you actually won't even need to tell your team so much anymore to do better, because it's going to have a ripple effect on them. So those would be my 3 suggestions.
I love it.
Actually, I've got a call coming up in 3 minutes, and what you just said just totally sent, like, just listening to you helped me center. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome. I've been told that, like, my yoga background still infuses in my meetings. So
Absolutely is. I'm gonna bring that state of mind into the next meeting. So
nice. Good.
Well, we always really appreciate your perspective and you're the person that you are, Jen. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, guys. I love hanging out with you. I love having these conversations, and I appreciate you both.
To many more.
Yes.
To many more.
Thanks, everyone, for listening and joining us this week. And we will be back next week with another topic for you. So we'll look forward to you joining us then and being with you. So thanks very much. See you soon.